Okay, one.
Yeah, can you just give me a minute? Let me get the video up. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're live.
I still don't get the mute button anywhere on my thing. Okay, I see it now. Okay, are we live now?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's like good evening. And today I hope you had a fun 2 weeks. And today we're going to do a few things. So I need to rush again because we're going to cover a lot of ground. Okay. So what I want to do today is not just because the initial plan really was to talk about the ChatGPT or the GPT connector. But what I'd like to do is also to cover the data storage concepts, right? And there are two kinds of data storage types. There is persistent storage and also the chat database, right? And then finally, I will also show you how to connect and use the ChatGPT connector. Okay, and then along with there's a download from my projects page, and this also contains some prompt engineering examples as well. And then we'll end with a Q&A. Of course, we'll have Q&As after each section, so you can ask questions on the YouTube chat. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about some data storage concepts, right? So you already know what MEMS are. They're just, these things that you put into your chatbots and you can store data temporarily, okay? And you also know what logs are as well. They store logs. It's actually a file that's on the server, and you can actually, dump data into the log files, right? But today we'll focus on two other things called persistent storage and the chat database. Okay, and last of all, we will talk about the ChatGPT connector. So the thing about MEMS is that the MEMS will only persist data over a single session. Okay, so in other words, you have data coming in, okay, and that data is only stored over a single user session. And this is mainly useful for storing data or information on a temporary basis. So just for a while, only for that one session, and then it's gone, okay? We also have logs where the data can be stored over a longer term, right, and which you can use to analyze later on. And the logs are supported by the L colon and also the T colon stuff, which we haven't discussed yet. Okay, and I would actually recommend that you look at the videos for the T colon because you don't have the time to actually cover those things. And the T colon also ends up with, you can actually use that data to analyze it with visualizations. We also have a template for you, the Achita English template. But the problem with the logs, of course, is that they are very slow to access. So they're not suitable for use in live interactions with your chatbots. And also be aware that logs will be purged on a regular basis, okay? Coming to persistent storage, the question really is, can you store user-specific information, like maybe the user's name or maybe his preferences, etc., right? And so the idea is that these kinds of problems to store user-specific information is solved really very well by using persistent storage. So it's good to really, you can use this technique to actually customize your data, and it works across multiple sessions. In other words, once the chatbot is closed up and the same user comes back in again, then of course they can actually receive the same greeting or preferences or other stuff that you want to have across multiple sessions, even though the user closes up the chatbot, okay? So you can quite easily do this using persistent storage. Okay, it's fast access compared to logs, and also it will automatically be purged every 6 months, just for privacy concerns and reasons. Right? There is the chat database as well, which is quite different, and this is a key value database type store. So I explain that later on when we come to it. But it is done on a per username basis. In other words, let's say my username is Arnold, right? So all the data will be stored under my username. Okay, so your chatbots that you build, you can just store data inside this system under your username. And the thing is that the chat database actually can work outside of chats, actually. In fact, in your own regular programs, it can also work as well. The access is very fast. It also has something called serialized writes, because a lot of chatbots can actually write to that same database. So you need to actually make the writing to the database sequential. Otherwise, you can get problems with overlapping writes and so on. So it has that feature. But what it doesn't have is unlimited storage. There are actually storage limits, and there are no transaction mechanisms. So I'll cover that later on when we cover this in more detail. Okay. And last of all, we have something called the group data. All right. So it's similar to the chat database, but it's a bit more limited. It does include a permission mechanism. For the persistent storage, there's no need for permissions because it is already automatically on a per user basis. The chat database, you can actually build your own permission mechanism. It's not so hard, but the group data actually comes with its own permission mechanism, and its access is also very fast. But there are very severe limits to the storage, how much you can store, and so on. It's extremely limited. Okay, and it was used previously for training teachers and collecting data from quizzes and so on. But all of that stuff is actually now no longer being used. It's no longer being collected using group data. Instead, we're using the logs and the T colons to actually do that. Okay, but today, because we don't have a huge amount of time, I'm going to talk just about two things: the persistent storage part and the chat database part. Okay, and give you some examples in how these things can be used in your own applications. All right, so without further ado, I'll go deep dive into persistent storage. So the first question is why? Why do we need persistent storage? And what it really solves is this question about how can I make my chatbot more friendly, more customizable, right? For example, you might want to save the user's name. As you ask you what's your name, right? You can just save that name. Or perhaps you have a little widget to change the font size that can save, or colors, for example, right? Or maybe something that's to do with e-commerce, like a shopping basket, or perhaps even a quiz that you want a student to actually complete. Then you can save the state of the quiz and store it into persistent storage. Okay, so a mem can only last just for one interaction, one session. Okay, but the persistent storage, you can take those mems, actually store them into the persistent storage, and then bring them up again later on at a later date. Okay, so that it looks as if your chatbot can actually remember a person even if it comes back in again later on. That's what it does. Okay. But it's not meant to be a really serious kind of long-term storage mechanism. If you want to really store stuff, then you can take it from the persistent storage and do some kind of logging later on, okay, as the user interacts with your system. So the solution for all this, of course, is persistent storage. And the behavior-wise, it acts like a simplified version of hash. So if you don't know what a hash is, there's something called the Smodule tutorials at the end, at the top part of your IDE or your editor. Okay, click on the tutorials, and you'll see basic, intermediate, advanced. There is a tutorial on hashes right in the middle. So if you don't know what a hash is, it's a very simple idea. The idea is that I've got a key, like a name, and I've got a value, and I want to just store the name value pair. Right. So for example, let's say Arnold, my name is, let's say the key is name and my name is Arnold, then that's a pair. Okay. Or let's say my country, for example, that's a key. And then you've got a value, which is Singapore. So the country Singapore, for example, that's a pair. All right. So that is all that you can store using this persistent storage. Okay. But it's still super useful, right? Because most of the time, that's all that you really need. Okay. So there are two words to accomplish this. The first one is called pstore, which is a p hash symbol and an exclamation mark. So in Mojo, usually the exclamation mark means to store. Usually it means that. Okay. And so the input to pstore is the name of the key that you're going to use. When I say key, don't confuse this with the rooms and keys. Okay. Nothing to do with that. Right. It's just a name for the value that you want to store inside. okay, like the name of a mem or name of something else, right? So the P store will take the key value pair and then store it into the persistent storage for you, okay? And this storage is on a per user, per chatbot basis. In other words, if let's say I come in and use your chatbot and you store some, like my name, for example, for your chatbot, let's say it's called Hello World chatbot, right? So this will only store it only for me, and only for the Hello World chatbot. If I use a different chatbot, same person but different chatbot built by you, it will not be able to recall that data because it's on a chatbot basis as well, on a user basis, but also on a chatbot basis. Okay, and then of course the second one is pfetch, which is, so you've got pstore to store stuff, and pfetch to actually take it out from that storage and into your system where you can print it out and do all sorts of stuff with it. Okay, so the input is just one input this time, just the name of the key that you want to use. Okay, and the output is a value. If the value exists, let's say if the value doesn't exist, it will give you a null value which you can test for using null question mark. Okay, so this retrieves the key, the value given the key. Right, and again, the data is only accessible by that one user who actually used your chatbot, and only for that chatbot, only, not for other chatbots, and certainly not even for your own other chatbots created by yourself. Okay, no one else can access it, and a user cannot access his data from a different chatbot. Okay, and you need to be aware that the data is purged or cleaned out every 6 months. And now let me give you a demo. So the demo would be something simple like storing a person's, the user's name, and maybe storing the person's camera images. All right, so these are 2 use cases that we had. Might be interesting for you. Okay, so let's start first with a simple demo where we want to store the person's name. Okay. Let me call up my screen. Hold on. There's my Chrome. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so here what I've done is I've just downloaded the CU101. It's a blank thing, and I've deleted all the other stuff. Okay, and there's no need to do anything extra. You can actually use the p hash, the p store, and the p fetch immediately. Okay, what I'll do is I have already changed my init to call up a welcome word. So that's the fancy page that we did the last time around. So I'm just going to go to my topics here and see the intro. Okay, I've got the welcome screen here. Okay, so let me maybe include this. Topics m. Okay, and then we just publish this. So all it does is just, I'm going to include one topic here, and all it's going to do is just going to publish this one page here. Okay, and that's it, nothing else. Okay, if I say hello, you'll see IDK. Okay, straight away. All right, so I'm going to close this out now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this so that it asks the person a question. Right, asks me a question, right, and that could be, what is your name? Okay. And then here, I'm going to respond with anything I'm typing. Let's say my name is X for the name, right? I'm going to use X for the name. Okay. Or let's say I am, or I am, right? So am also like that, or okay, and that's why we get the name. And we want to store these names into a mem first. Okay, so we'll try that first. Okay. Okay, so there's a question here, I'll try to answer quickly, is that there's persistent storage. Can it store user responses, which can be used for analysis? The answer is no. Okay, answer is no. For that, you need to use the logs. Okay. The second question is, for other storage not covered by today's session, will there be videos examples that we can refer to? Okay. So the MEMS are already covered by video. You should already know the MEMS. I think it's in video number 4 or 5, number 5. For the logs, they're also covered as well, but the T colon, which is also stored in the logs, are not covered. The group data, but there are videos. Okay. The group data part, it is not covered because we are not going to use it anymore. All right. So actually, I'm covering the 2 major ones, which really, you get a lot of bang for your buck using these today's techniques. Okay. And I will show you, I will give you some videos maybe towards the end of the session on where you can find stuff for the logging part and where you can use the analysis. All right. In fact, the Achita English is a good place to start. Right? It has already logging using the T colon, and it also has got analytics as well, the graphs and so on. Okay. And I can show you that perhaps towards the end of today. All right. But let's continue with this example. So here, all I'm going to do here is just to close this up. Right. And so here it responds with the name, but the name is blank, obviously. I need to actually use a B because it's before. So the B is actually before the A is being computed. I'm just going to store this, maybe LCase it, then capitalize. So you're wondering about, where can I look for LCase and capitalize and so on? Well, it's in your Smojo tutorials and also in the lab instructions under the recipe section. Okay. And I'm going to store it into name. Okay. So this is, I'm just storing this, the capitalized. So when you call the X from this straight away, you'll find that it's actually the capital Arnold, right? So let's say if I didn't have this, okay, and I did something like this, right? If I use the $X here, for example, like that, okay, you'll see that my name will be capitalized. So let's try this first and publish. Run this. So it says, what is your name? I'll say Arnold. Okay. Sorry, it's lowercase, right? So it's hello Arnold, all in lowercase. Yeah. That's not really what you want. You want to be able to maybe have it in capital. So I'll just call this, I'm lowercasing it here for safety, and capitalizing, I'm storing to name. And then I'll just call name like that. Okay, because I'm going to use this later on to store the data inside the system. Okay, let's try this again. And I'm going to publish it again. Close this up. Okay. And you can see here, it asks me the same question again, as if it doesn't know me, right? So I'm going to say Arnold. Okay, and it says hello Arnold. Okay. Now, if I want to build, I can also bring another rule here. Let's say I put a rule here called name, right? And what it does is that it just displays the value of the variable name. Okay, so that we can examine what's going on and so on. Okay, and I'm going to, so you understand what happens here. So if I type in name at the very start, just the word name alone by itself, it will then display the value for the man called name. All right. If I type in anything else, it will assume I'm responding to the query here, and then it will say, okay, yes, look, your name is hello Arnold, right? So in this case, hello Arnold, right? You can even have an alternative. So let's say, hi Arnold, how are you? Right. So this is an alternative here with the symbol here. All right. And let's just publish this quickly and see what happens. Okay. So here it still doesn't know what my name is. I say Arnold. Okay. It says, hi Arnold, how are you? But if I type in name again, just name, it assumes it's a command to display the name. The name is Arnold. All right. If I restart this bot, and at this point I type in name, right? It's the number 1 because all mems have a default value of 1. Okay, I can set the default value to null, which means that the whole thing just blow up. Okay, if I try to, I can set the default value of the mem here to null. So I'd say null name. If I did this, the default value now is now just null. I publish this. Try it out. Okay. If I type name, it'll probably give me an error. Okay, a null pointer exception error because I'm trying to display the null value, and so it doesn't like that, and the whole thing will blow up. Okay, not what we want, but we will progress. Okay, so the first step to changing this thing is that if you notice, each time I start the chatbot, it's asked me the same question. I don't know your name, tell me your name. All right. What we want to do is we want to change this so that if it knows, it retrieves the name from your database. Okay. So let's say we have 2 words called get name. And all it does is that just to give me a name or null. Okay. And get name maybe something like name P. Right. So this is the key under which I'm going to store. I can call it anything I like. I can call it, bingo or whatever else it is, right? Let's say X, Y, Z, for example. It doesn't really matter. Just a unique key that I want to just store the data inside, then retrieve it with the same key. Okay, so I'm going to call it name because that's intuitive and it aligns with everything else. It doesn't affect anything really. It's just your own unique name. And this checks the database, your persistent storage database, using the p fetch command for the name. And this could be null if it doesn't exist, or it could be the name itself if it exists. Okay, so this is get name. Then here I'm going to have a set name. Okay, and this one here, I need the name to store it in, and that's it. Okay, but here it's key followed by the value. So I call in, I need to use a swap. Okay, or if you don't like a swap, you might prefer to run the value for the name itself to be Arnold, right? And it's the name, the key, followed by the value, followed by the p store. Okay, so what this does is that this sentence here, all right, all it's doing is saying, I've got a identifier called name, and I'm going to store the value v under that identifier. That's it. Okay, and here I'm going to retrieve it under the identifier name. I can call it X, Y, Z on both sides if you want to, or anything else you want to. Okay, as long as they both are the same. All right, so this is just storing the value and then retrieving it. Okay. Okay, so here at the welcome side, I want to do a check. Right, so the check is that I'm going to call this a generic welcome. Instead of calling it welcome itself, I'm going to call it a generic welcome. Right. So my generic welcome, basically, it's going to give me a string. Right. It's just this string here, and it just asks me for my name. All right. But the real welcome is the one that's going to check and see, do I know the name already? If I know the name already, I'm going to display the name. If not, I am going to display the generic welcome. All right. So the real welcome, right, is going to check first. It'll say get name. Right. So you get the name, and let's call it, if it's null, and bind it to a name called a value called n. If n is null, right, we display the generic welcome. That means the name doesn't, the person's name doesn't exist in our database. You want to just display this, and then we exit. That means we go back and do whatever you want to do. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to display, that means the name is known. All right. Then we want to use the quotes. All right. So, okay. And then cue this and say, welcome back. Okay. Okay, like that. How can I help you today? Right, so let's try this again. Right, and we'll go back to our name and publish. Go back here again. So the first time around, he says, what is your name? He doesn't know my name. I'll say it's Arnold. Okay. Hi, Arnold, how are you? Now I'm going to close up this bot now and come back in again. Okay, and it says, okay, it still gives me the same problem. Okay, it still asks me the same question. And the reason is because I haven't written any code to store the data. If you look at it here, I've only written code to check the name, but I've not written any code here to store the data once I know the name. So here, I've stored it into the mem, but I haven't really stored it into the system itself, right? So in this case, I really don't need the mem anymore because I'm going to retrieve the data and in and out using the storage mechanism, right? So here, all I'm going to do here is say, okay, look, I'm going to say set name, and here I'm going to say get name, right? So set name will set the name into the database, and the A will retrieve the name from the database, right? And here I need to do a check because I don't know whether the name is empty or not. Well, here it's guaranteed not to be empty because I already have the name set inside that database. Okay, and publish here again. And oops, no such word name. So I've got an error somewhere here. Okay, here, this one here, get name as well. And publish. It's got a third one somewhere. All right. Yeah, here. Okay, get name. Okay. Now I publish. If you find, yes, success. Okay, so now it'll ask for my name. It's Arnold. And it should be okay. Say hello, Arnold, right? So now I'm going to close this up now and just restart that bot. And see here, now it's different. Now, when I restart the bot, it will say, welcome back, Arnold. How can I help you today? Okay. And this data will be stored there for as long as I wish, for about 6 months. Okay, so once the data is in and not altered, it'll be there for 6 months. But if you alter it, then another 6 months and so on, right? So it's a rolling 6 months, so to speak. Okay, so far so good. That's a very simple example. Now I want to do the part where we're talking about the camera. Okay, so if you recall, the thing was Mojo chat camera. Okay, and even I myself, we wrote this a long time ago. I cannot remember what the words are available on this camera module. So last week we did the camera module, right? I just showed you how it works, right? So we want to look at the documentation for this. So it's mojo/doc that. So this is a standard way to get the words available on most of the recent modules. Okay, there are exceptions like the older ones which don't have documentation yet, but all the new ones like this, which include features like this, all have extensive documentation with examples. So I run this now to get the documentation. So I know that there are a few things I need to use. There is I can use last picture to grab the picture from the camera. There's remove camera to actually destroy the camera after I clicked on the image. Then there's show camera to actually show the camera itself. Okay, so how do we integrate this into our existing system so that the user can maybe take a snapshot, okay, of whatever he wants to take, and then store it into the database and then retrieve it down the line. Okay, so we're going to use the persistent storage for that purpose. Okay, I'll quickly do this example because we're also a little short of time. Okay, so I'm going to leave this on here. So the first step that we need to make is that we need to be careful about this, because this part here is what's it called again? It's it contains a catch-all. So this is not a catch-all. This is not a catch-all, but this one here is a catch-all, right? So we cannot just leave this rule all by itself. We need to wrap it up to some kind of room, and we'll call the room, well, name, okay, or intro if you want. Okay, let's call it intro instead. Okay, because we're introducing ourselves, right? And we just wrap it up in that room. So only if you got the intro key, then can you enter into this room. Okay, and what we do is we can then also add. So if there's a generic welcome, we want to add the intro key. Right, so that to ensure that when the user responds with his name, the rules here will also match. But once the name is already obtained, we want to lose the key, so could call clear, right? So clear clears all the keys. In this case, only one key called intro, right? So the idea is that if I don't know the guy's name, I want to expose the intro rules. He goes in the intro room because the catch-all there. We extract the name out. We save the name using the set name command. We say hello, hello Arnold, and so on, right? And after that, we want to just remove that key from this room so that it no longer bothers us anymore for any other rules, okay? Because otherwise it would interfere with the rest of our rules. Okay, so this involves, in order for you to understand this part here a little, you need to finish off the section 6, which is rooms and keys. Okay, it's very, very important if you want to manage more complicated interactions, right? And you can add a key using like this in a module word, or it's called remove dash key as well, to remove a key if you want to. All right. In here, you can call clear or use a minus sign to actually, like how I taught in the video sessions, using the K colon. If you want to just add and remove keys using your templates section here. Okay. So now this is not a big change, but let me just publish this first. Okay. So all okay. I've got the camera part here, so I've already had the camera. Now I want to say, okay, look, if the person says pic, P-I-C, then, or snapshot, right? So let's say it says pic, which means picture. Okay. I want to show the camera. So it's, remember that the command was what again? I don't know what the command was. Command was show camera. So show camera loads a camera module onto your chatbot. Okay, so I'm going to call this as show camera. Okay, and that's it. All right. And I will show that the camera functionality. Let's give this a shot now. I can just close this off. Oops, sorry. We'll try that again. Okay. Okay, so it's welcome back, Arnold, right? It can still remember me now, right? But now I type pic, P-I-C, and I should get, yeah, okay. Oops. I'm not sure why it doesn't work here on my this thing. I think I need to set the settings for the camera for Chrome, but I know for sure that it works on Firefox because I've tried it there. So just give me a second. Let me stop the share on Chrome and move to Firefox, and maybe you can get this to work there. All right. Or tell you what, instead of doing that, instead of using the camera, then maybe what you can do is use the image upload, which I also discussed last week. It's the same as the camera. All right. So if you know how to use camera, if you know how to use the store data for the image upload, you will also be able to store it for the camera as well. Right. So let me just go back to Chrome because it's probably simple for me to do it from here. So there's also something called image upload, where you can actually upload an image from your laptop or whatever it is into the system. Okay, I went through that last week. It's this, and very similar for if you have the camera, it's also very similar. Okay, so we'll use this. This one doesn't require permissions. All right, and it has something called the image upload thing out here. Okay, and last picture as well. So let's try using image upload instead of camera. So I'm going to change this to image upload. Oh, dash upload. Okay, I'll store that. And here, instead of pick, I'll say upload. Okay, and this would be the command was what again? What's the command? I can't remember. It is image upload. Okay, loads are selected. So just image upload, right? And this creates an image upload UI for us, right? So it's called image. All right. So let's go back here and click on publish. Okay, if I click now upload, if I upload, it says select image, and then I can just store this image somehow. Oops. All right. You see, I've got an image here we can use. Okay, let's try this one. Okay, so you've got the image out here, and if I click on upload image, okay, this is where it says IDK because there's no rule to handle that incoming image. Right. So the way I do it now is that I want to wrap again this portion here into an upload rule of some kind. Okay, so I'm going to have another room to process. So each time I create a new room, it's really because I have a catch-all. Right. So the purpose of this room is really to just handle the upload. So okay. Right. So as I press click on upload and I upload the image, I also give it a key color upload, which automatically makes this room a match. Right. And whatever is being typed here, I don't care. I want to actually save this picture into my persistent storage. All right. So the last picture, we go back here. There's and run the documentation again. You can see there's a word called last picture. So this is a standard for both the image upload and also for the camera as well. Okay, it will just give you the last picture that's been saved by the system, either the camera or the image that you uploaded. All right, so in this case, it will be the image that I actually uploaded onto the system itself, right? Sure. Okay, and I want to save this picture. Okay, so let's call it save pic. Okay, look, it's last dash picture. Okay. And maybe I can then also display the picture as well, which means get pic. Or even simpler, let's call last picture itself again. Okay. And here I want to just get rid of all the keys and close this out. Okay. All right. So here I need to find a word or write a word called save pic. It's just very similar to save, sorry, not save pic. Yeah, call it save pic. It's just it's similar to set name. I just call it save pic. Save pic. Or save image, maybe pic is better. Okay. And all this does is just to save this picture. We'll call it pic for picture. Okay. And I want to get also the get pic, right? Oops. Okay, and this is the pic. All right, so I'm actually just storing the picture that I've uploaded into a key or a name under the name pic. All right. You can change the name for whatever you like. You can even ask the user for a name and put it in, or do something like that. Okay, there's many ways to actually store multiple images. Here I'm just giving a simple example for a single image because we are also a bit short of time. Okay, so I've got the upload mechanism now already put in. Let me write another rule here for pick to actually display the picture, right? So if I write type pick, I'm not going to call image upload. I'm just going to call get pick, and that's it. All it does is just retrieve the picture that I had, right? And this will work even across multiple sessions. All right, so let me illustrate here and publish this first. Okay, so if I run this chatbot now, okay, so remember upload will upload the image. So click upload. Okay, I select the image. Let's say this one here. And I click on upload image. Oh, okay. It has all of this stuff because I made a small mistake here. I forgot to call the word image. All right, so let me see now. Wait a minute. I gotta say, where was that again? Yes, for the get pick part, I need, sorry, image upload. Yeah, for this part here, the last picture, I need to call image. And also here, when after I get the picture, I need to call the word image as well, so that it creates the image for you nicely in HTML. Okay, and displays it. This is the raw image data with what you saw just now. All right, with all those alphabets and so on. It's actually an encoding, a textual encoding of binary data. Okay, using something called base64. But you need to wrap that up into HTML, and this is what the image does for you. Okay. Let's publish again. Publish, go back to the chatbot. Let's try upload. Okay. Select the image. We'll check that one. Upload image. And there it displays here. Okay. Now, if I close this, and I go back again to my chatbot, now remember that the template called pick should display it, right? So PIC, it should actually retrieve it from the database and display it for you straight away. All right, for PIC again, it does the same thing. Okay, so this is actually getting from that database and retrieving it. It's not on your chatbot per se anymore. Right, then just close this up and call up again and type pick, and there you've got it. Okay, it's fairly fast. Okay. All right, so that I think ends that part of the demo, and I would like to just take some questions now before we move on. Okay, any questions? Yeah, so if you have multiple names, so in the example that I gave you, there were two names, right? The first name is called name, for literally my full name, okay, or my first name, and you've got also the other one, which is the pick, right? Which can store a single picture. All right. So if you want to store multiple values under the same name, that's also possible. But instead of storing this kind of raw strings or images and so on, you want to store a data structure. So for that, you've got to understand how Mojo works. There are many data structures you can use. You can use sequencers, you can use tuples, you can use hashes. Okay, so you can store those things. So I hope that answers the first question. Can key value pairs store in one topic be retrieved in another topic? Yes, the answer is yes, but it is only chatbot specific. So if you change the name of your chatbot, it won't work anymore. Okay, if it has to be on the same chatbot with the same name, but you can retrieve it and call it from any topic, it will still work. Do we need to get prior permission from the user before we encode the activation of his camera? Well, yes, of course. You don't have to do it because the browser will ask him, right? Do you want to allow access for this application? You say yes or no, then it will then respond appropriately. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. If you want to be super sure, then you can ask, may I display the camera for you and take a picture? And then you say yes, click the button yes, then of course go into a room, which then displays the camera widget. All right, so if that's the only questions, we'll move on quickly to the next topic, which is data storage. Oops, I think I meant to. Okay, there is another example of this persistent storage thing, which is in video 8 of CU101. Hold on, I think it's one last question here. I still don't get how the thing works and what's its purpose. So the person asks, there is a bracket, dash, and the S, right? It doesn't do anything. It is just a comment to us, which is the programmer, okay? The question was, let me just go back to this again. Let me stop here. Someone asks, what is the purpose of the comment? All right, so I can just share my screen again. All right, go back to my intro. You see me writing these things here, like this here, this part here, and then this part here, and this part here, right? It is a comment, all right? So anything in purple that you see here, it's all in purple, right? Anything in purple is a comment, which is not used by your, by Smojo actually. It's actually ignored by Smojo. The purpose is for me as a programmer to understand what is this thing doing, all right? So like in this case, by looking at this, I can tell you that this word here, get name, expects no input because it's a blank here. And this double dash means the separator. And what is the output? So input, separator, output, right? So separator just to separate the input from the output, all right? So you got no input and you've got two options for the output here, all right? It's either a string, which is the S in double quotes, or the bar means or, a noun, all right? So this tells me clearly there's get name expects no input. Don't try and put things into the S input for get name, but it will give you a string or noun, all right? Here, on the other hand, for set name, it means that it expects a string in and it gives you no output because the right side is blank, all right? So the same thing here. Here, it expects no input and it will give you a string output, definitely not null. If it's null, then you will get a problem, right? So same thing here also. This means no input expected. It will only give you a string which is an output, right? So just a comment for us to program and debug the system. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so let me move on now to the next part, which is, and before I move to the next part, I've got to mention also, there's actually a longer video on persistent storage, and it has a longer example. I'll give you a longer example where you can use this for a more complicated situation, okay? And we've covered, of course, storing the user's name and storing the user's uploaded images in this case. But it's you can take this QR code and look at video 8. Basically, it's video 8 of CU101, and it has a much longer example, which I think you should look at if you're interested in customizing your chatbot. But now I want to move on to the chat database. Okay, so what's the purpose of the chat database, and why is it different from the persistent storage? Well, the answer is, now you know that the persistent storage it's only for one user and only on that one chatbot. Okay, the same user on a different chatbot, separate. Okay, you can use the same name like for picture and picture, and we'll give you different values. All right. So the data is not shared across chatbots and not across users for persistent storage. But what if you do want to do that? Let's say you want to share data across your users. Let's say you want let's say to share some uploaded images, whatever else, with a friend, okay, using our system. The answer is you can, all right? Or let's say you want to share it between your chatbots only. Let's say my username is Arnold, and I make a few chatbots. How do I share data between my chatbots? Okay, and that's useful. You want to have things like dashboards, or let's say you want to have like workflows or verifications and a lot of different kinds of use cases. Okay, so for those kind of purposes where the data need to be shared within a certain creator's username. Okay, so it's on a username basis. All right, that's your Smojo username basis. You can share data across those things, and for that you use the chat database. Okay, so that's why you use the chat database, and it still also acts like a simplified hash. So it's actually very similar to your pstore, pfetch. It's an extra word called drop. Okay, but unlike the storage, which is baked into your system, to access the words on the chat database, you need to actually include the Smojo chat database on the top of your what is it called again? Main.m. Okay, this is a cloud word. Okay, a cloud module. All right, and this cloud module, once you put it up at the top, it will actually get all the source code and all the other stuff that you want to that actually go into making the chat database. Okay, so the first one is db hash exclamation mark, and what that means is it's the database store. Okay, so it's a store, just like the pstore. This is a database store. Okay, but unlike the pstore, which only has got 2 inputs, this has 3 inputs: a name, a value, and also the database, the virtual database on which you want to store it on. Okay, so this stores the key value pair like before, but on a named database. Okay, and again, database fetch, you need to provide the name of the key that you want to use and the database name, and will give you the value on null if it's not found on the database, and this retrieves the key from the database. Okay, and last of all, there's also a p drop as well, a database drop. Right, I didn't write it, unfortunately, but I will show it to you later on. Okay, how you can actually drop. What it does is it removes the data from your database. Okay, and that can also be quite useful too. So this data again is potentially means you need to write the code. Okay, it's not automatically, you need to write the code. It's potentially accessible by any user from any of your chatbots. Right, so it's up to your code to decide who and how you want that data to be accessed. The data writes again are serialized, meaning that one by one. Okay, there are many different people can use the chatbot all at the same time, but as they are uploading images and other stuff, for example, those image uploads are sequentialized or serialized. All right, so what this means that it can sometimes be slow to write if the load is heavy. All right, for like say 1 million users, it's not designed for let's say 1 million users. Maybe for hundreds of thousands of users, it's still okay. All right. So the data reads, on the other hand, are concurrent, which means that they are very fast even when the loads are fairly heavy. But there's no transaction mechanism. So if you know what a database transaction is, I can write to, let's say, key number 1 and key number 2. Okay, there is no way to ensure that I can write to both of these at the same time. All right, that's a transaction mechanism to ensure something called atomicity. So there's no atomicity or transaction mechanism for atomicity. All right, so my advice is don't store very large data sets because it's going to break your bot. All right, so it's not meant to store millions of data points, right, on the same key. Right, you can store many data points on different keys. That's still okay. You can easily transfer data between persistent storage and your chat database simply by calling it up in your bot and then shoving it in wherever you like. All right. There are 2 videos already that we produced which go into more detail. The first one is a masterclass on the chat database basics, and I've actually covered more details on the pros and cons, etc. Right, and the trade-offs. And there's also a much more detailed application than what I'm going to cover today. All right. But what I'm going to do today is just to be able to share the data between different users. All right, so that if you, for example, at home, if you went to my chatbot and you ran the commands, you can retrieve those images that I upload. Okay, so that's all we're going to do today. All right. Okay. Any questions at this stage before I move on very quickly? All right, no questions. I will just start with the demo. All right, so again, right now, if we look at chatbot and publish here again, look at publish, just go back here to the chatbot. And if you notice, if I say pick, for example, it's going to call and display this image that you see before. Use Mojo AI design thinking for educating chatbots. Okay, exercise. It's going to display that. Okay, but it's only for me and only on this chatbot. Okay, if you were to click the same URL here, all right, and access my bot right now, okay, and you type pick, it will give you null. In fact, it will probably crash the chatbot because we didn't check for any null values. All right, we should be checking for null values, but it doesn't check for null values. All right, so you want to be able to, if you want to be able to share this image, all right, with somebody else, then you need to use the database, the chat database. Okay, so the first step is to go back to main and to add in your Mojo chat database, DBase. Okay, and let's just publish that to make sure it's all okay. Okay, cool. Okay, it works. And I think this is also documented. If you go to DBase and you just run this, okay, yes, it's documented. And you can see there are 3 words here, the store, the fetch, and the drop. So what the drop does is just to remove the value depending on the key in the database. So you can actually erase information if you want to. Okay. All right, so this is fairly straightforward. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say maybe have a different. So I've got the name. I've got the name one, which actually gives my name back again. I've got the upload. I've got the pick. Okay. Maybe you want to just make pick a little better. So for example, you can check and see whether pick is null or not. I wouldn't recommend that you do something like this because I'm going to call get pick twice. This is not the best way of doing it. A better way of doing it is store it within a mem first. Get pick. Right, so I'm going to store first into a mem called pick because I want to avoid hitting the database too many times. Okay, whenever you have a database access and so on, it makes your chatbot slow. All right, the mem is very fast because it runs within the system within your browser. So it's very fast. Okay, so mem pick. I'm going to just store it in. I'm going to retrieve it first from the database. When the user types pick, it's going to get the pick picture from the database, from the what's it called again? From the persistent storage and store it into a mem called pick, which is a temporary storage. All right. Then I want to check and see if this pick is null. All right. And if it is null, then I want to display something. But if it's not null, I want to actually just show the image. So I say no picks, right? Okay. Let me just, so this is the safe version, right? So let me just publish this again. Of course, for me, it wouldn't matter because I already uploaded the picture. Right? If I type pick, right, it should work straight off. All right. Now, our goal right now is how do I get this image from the persistent storage part so that all of you who now go into this chatbot can view this image. All right. And the way we want to do that, is to have a command to do that. All right. So I can personally store some images onto my persistent storage. Once I'm happy with them, I can publish. So let's say I have a word called publish. Right. So Q publish. Okay. And what is going to do, what publish is going to do, is that it's going to take the picture. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Get the pic first. All right. Right. And if the pic is non-empty, okay, then I wanted to publish. So if the pic is non-empty, I'm going to publish. Right. So pic now. Okay, so the pic is now not, I want to do the publishing, which is actually save it into the database. I'm going to say pick publish. Or yeah, publish pick. Okay. And here I've got a choice, right? I can say if the pick is null, means there is no picture to upload in the first place. Then I say no picture, right? And if it is, picture polish. Or say okay. All right, it's a nice thing to say. All right, so here I've got to write a word called publish picture. So publish picture is just like the save pic. I'll just copy the save pic here. Or maybe called save pic to database, DB. All right, that's probably simpler. Right. So save pic is for the picture in your persistent storage, and the save pic DB is on the chat database. All right. So I'll just copy this word here. Instead of saying publish pic, I'll say save pic DB. All right. Bit of a word, not a mouthful, but I've got the thing here now. So here it's the same thing here. And here, don't forget, for the database, it's called DB, right? And I need to specify the database I'm going to use. I've got the database I'll use. I'll give the same name as my chatbot. Okay, it doesn't matter. Here it's just it's called chatbot. Okay. All right, and then of course I also want to call get pick DB, right? Get. So this one is just nothing, no inputs. All right, and all it's going to do is just say DB fetch, right? So if I just retrieve it, I'm not used this yet. I'm just going to test this out whether I can publish it or not. Okay, let's test the publish part first. All right, moment of truth. Yep, it compiles okay. And I go here, I say pick first. All right, I've got the picture. I'm going to publish it. Okay, and you say okay, because I have a picture and I've stored it now into that database system. All right. So now what I want to do is I want for other people to be able to get the picture. All right. And what I can do here, I've just saved this picture straight away into, you know, the bot itself, right? What you can do also, if you want to be fancier, is to actually, you know, take the user's name as well, and then use that as a means to store the images. Okay, but I'm not going to do that right now. All I want to do is just so that if you type in my URL here, you can actually go ahead and actually retrieve the image. All right. So how are we going to do that? Well, what we can do is that when we click on pick here, all right, I'm going to say another thing called C. Okay, let me write it out here. So C pick, maybe C pick. All right, so this C pick, basically, or DB pick, maybe it's easier so that you can separate it, right? Is we want to retrieve it from the database now, right? So that even you can do it, although you have got no access supposedly to my images. All right, so this one here is get pick DB, all right? DB pick, right? Get pick DB. And I again store it into my pick mem, right? I'll say no pick has been published. Otherwise, I just say, sorry, here it ought to be pick image here. So just pick image, right? So I don't recall that word twice. All right, so I've stored it into the pick. If it's now, I just say there's no image to be published, and I get out of there. All right. So now I can't test it out because I'm going to publish this first. Let me publish this first. And let's try it again. Okay. So if I try it out, I say, for example, this time, what's called DB pick, right? So this time is not really getting it from the persistent storage. It is getting from the common storage area, which is the chat database. Okay. And if you now type in my URL with this thing here, you can see this. It is appsmojo.org/Arnold/bot. Okay. If you try that yourself and just type in DB space pick, you ought to be seeing my picture as well. Okay, so that way you can share images, you can share information like locations and so on, and you can build fairly interesting chatbots. You layer on this feature functionality with other things like maybe security or permissions and so on. You can do that as well. Okay. All right. So I hope that illustrates for you just a bit how these things, why they might be useful and what you can actually do with them. All right, I'll stop here and I'll take some questions because we need to move on to the next section, which is how to use the GPT connector. All right, so I'll pause here. Are there any questions? So yes, a single user can create multiple databases. So the question is, can a single user create multiple databases? Answer is yes. Yes, you can. And the next question is, what if we forget the database name? Well, if you forget the name, too bad. It's gone. Okay. So that's the responsibility is on your side to actually remember those names. There's no way for you to remember the name, to actually retrieve those names once they are already lost. Okay, even we can't access those names anymore. Is there any data analytics that I can capture using Smojo? For example, the topics the user is most interested in, etc., and so on. Well, the answer is definitely yes, there is, and that's using the T:, using the logs. And I will see if I have time today, and I'll show you where you can get that template. It's actually called Achita English. It comes with a fairly extensive video and also examples. Will you be sharing out today's .m file? Yes, I will be sharing today's .m file. Okay, and I will put it on my projects page so you can download it. Okay, and I will tell you on the Telegram group where to find it. All right. Oh, there was a couple I missed here. Will I know anyone else is using the same DB name, or is it user specific? Well, it's user name specific. Okay, so in other words, all these names are specific to the scope of our persistent storage or the DBs. Okay, so in other words, let's say my username is, let's say, I don't know, Joey, for example. Okay, so all these names will only apply to Joey for the chat database. For the persistent storage, it only applies not just to Joey's chatbot, but only for that one user who uses my chatbot. Okay, so the persistent storage got very restrictive scope. Okay, the chat database is wider, but still only within that Smojo username. All right, so your Smojo usernames are very important because they allow you to access a whole list of data. How do we store permanent information independent of chatbot, e.g. product code, product name, and so on, right? Well, for that, you can still use the, what's it called, the chat database, right? So you can still use that. And you can store it within that system if you want to. Okay. So you have to still input that data somehow in some way, and you have to use a chatbot for that. But once it's in, right, then your system, anyone can actually, any of your chatbots can access that data. Right. So the idea is that you might have, let's say, one chatbot to manage, like an admin chatbot to manage that database, and all the other chatbots will then use that database or data that you have to actually, you know, consume it, to actually display that. Right. So this can be useful if you want to collect things like pictures, or of let's say for example, I think one of you are doing something to do with swings, all right? So you might go around the island of Singapore and take pictures of the swings, take their location, the GPS locations. Now there is also a way for you to get to access the GPS location from your chatbot as well, okay? Precise GPS locations, and that is by using the geolocation technique. But there is a masterclass on that. Check out our AI for Impact playlist. On the playlist, there's something called masterclasses. On the masterclasses, there's a way for you to do geolocation as well from your chatbots. Okay, so you can take that information, shove it into the database, and you sort the swing location, and you can also include other data as well. So on the admin panel, okay, if you've got 5 team members, they can all use the same admin panel chatbot. They can go all over the island. They can store the data in, okay, and that way your database gets built in an organic way, right? In a distributed way, not one person doing all the data entry all at once. Okay, you can have multiple people doing the data entry if you want. Okay, so now let me move on to the next part, where we're going to switch gears a bit and not talk about data entry. Instead, we're going to talk about something that's quite different, that is on using ChatGPT. So now, okay, so I've already explained the 2 videos for you, and you can check that out, okay? And I've already shown you the example of publishing a picture so that other people can see it. And I'll share this code with you shortly. Okay, so now the next section, we want to just talk about how to use the GPT-3 connector. Okay, so if you don't know what GPT-3 is, it's the 3rd version of GPT. All right, and what it is a large language model, or LLM. There are many different LLMs available from big companies like Google and Meta, and and so on, right? So more companies actually producing LLMs. I think even China also producing their own LLM as well, so you can access. And most of these LLM access are usually through what is it called? Your web browser, right? So you need to go like to Bing or to some search engine and so on to access these things. Right? Or to OpenAI, you got ChatGPT, right? But there's also something called API, Application Programming Interface Access, okay, which is what we are going to focus on today. All right. So the GPT-3 connector, GPT-3 connector, is a simple way for you to access the GPT-3 API using Smodel. That's all it is. So what is ChatGPT-3? ChatGPT is a large language model. Okay, so we're not really using ChatGPT, but GPT-3, the underlying model behind it, through an API. Okay, and for now the API is free. I don't know how long it will remain free, but it looks like they're quite serious about free access. Okay, which is great. So in order for you to access the API or even the GPT itself, ChatGPT, you need an OpenAI account. I asked you guys, in fact, at the very start of this program, for NLB program, to actually get the OpenAI account, because you need that account to generate something called a secret key. Okay, so the secret key is a string of letters starting with SK dash, and then you get a whole string of letters. That secret key, you don't want to share it to anyone. Okay, but that secret key is something you can take and use to actually create your chatbots, okay, or access the GPT-3. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through the steps, because to look for the API is a bit fuzzy. So the first step is to go to this webpage called openai.com/API/login. Okay, and there's a login button there. Click on the login button, add in your username and password, and that will take you on, that will log you in. Okay, the next step is to go up to the upper right hand. There's a little circle there. Click on that circle, and then you'll get a drop down. Okay, and on that drop down, right, the second item, and now they could change it, of course, over time, but at least for now, the second item is called View API Keys. So you want to click on that second item. Okay, so click on View API Keys. You will be brought to a huge page called View API Keys. and where there is a clear button saying, create new secret key. All right, there's a button there called with a plus sign, create new secret key. All right, so you click on that, it will create a key for you. Don't click off the display, highlight it or copy that key, and then store it into a text file somewhere onto your system, somewhere safe. Okay, because it cannot be redisplayed. All right, you can create, I think, I'm not sure how many keys they allow you to create. I think as many as possible, as many as you want, really. Okay, but the important part is that what I would advise one chatbot, one key per chatbot, so that you can turn on and turn off the keys as you wish. Okay, so save your key and do not reveal it to anyone. Do not share it with others. Okay, you're done. That's it. Okay, that's the only thing you need from OpenAI, just the secret key. Okay, now there is also I've also written the GPT connector. Okay, it's on my home page. Sorry, on my projects page under community. So you click on community. All right, so there's no need for you to be honest, there's no need for you to download anything from my community page, but the download does have usage examples. So I put in 6 examples for you. Some are interesting, you can try it out for yourself, okay, using GPT. But the examples are all in the same bundle as the source code, which actually creates the connector. All right, so you click on community, search for on the search button, search for user, search my username is Arnold, and you look for OpenAI GPT connector. Then you just hit on the downloads button, the green download button, and of course you'll get it, and it'll be stored under your root folder /Arnold/OpenAI GPT. Okay, and the examples are inside that. There's an examples folder with a few examples. You don't really need the source code at all. You can just use my cloud. So what this source code does is that it allows you to customize and publish your own connector. Okay, so most of you probably want to do that. If you want to do that, that's fine. But if you don't want to do that, you can still use the examples in the examples folder, and you can use in what I'm going to show you today. I'll use my username for the cloud word. Okay, so I'll show you this. I'll show you how to do this shortly. Okay. All right. Oops, I didn't mean to put in everything all at once, but let's go through it step by step. Okay. So there are a few steps. The first step, after you've done all of that stuff, gotten your secret key and so on, okay, is to create a new. So you go to your C101 or whatever chatbot you want to add this GPT intelligence. Okay, you create a new empty file on the same level as your main.m. Call it secret.m, for example. Okay, and inside this file, you just paste your secret key in double quotes so it turns green. Put a space. And then put secret-key exclamation mark. That's it. Okay, that's it. And that will once that code is run correctly, it will actually set your secret key for you to use. Okay. You do need to use a cloud module. So the cloud module is called Arno, which is my username /API/open-AI. Okay, step number 3. Now, if you publish your own connector, then it'll be your username /API/open-AI or whatever name you've made it to be. Okay, and this needs to be in your main.m, and then in your main.m also, after the cloud include, you need to include a secret key. Okay, include secret.m. All right, so let me just go through those steps because it can be quite confusing first before I move on. Okay. Okay, so the first step is to create a file called, now I already have a file here called secret.m. I'm not going to open it up because it contains my secret key. But inside this file here, all right, you want to put in something like, SK, whatever your secret key is, all right, space, so it turns green. So you need to put in the double quotes there and put a space, secret, SEC, ET-KEY exclamation mark. Okay, that sets the secret key for you. Okay, and you save this as secret.m. I'm not going to do that because I've already done it before. All right, and then what you do is you need to include this into your system anywhere that you like. I would suggest right at the top. Sorry, not topics anymore. Okay, so don't put, because it's not in topics. It's actually under the mains, same level as main. So just be secret.m. Okay. And then last of all, you want to put in the cloud module import, which I published for you already. Arnold/API/open AI. Okay. All right. So this is all you need to enable the API access. All right. These basically 3 steps. Put in the secret.m. Use the cloud import cloud module, which is this thing here. All right, and then include the secret key so it loads it up. Okay, that's it. Nothing else. Then you can start using GPT access in all your chatbots. Oh, sorry, not all your topics. Okay, not your chatbots. Only for this chatbot. Okay. So let me go on now to show you how to use it and what you can use it for. Okay, so what I've done is also, before I move on also, let's go back to share screen again. What I've done is I've actually documented this stuff as well. So you can call module/doc, but it's Arnold, in my case, it's called API/open-AI. If you run this, okay, it will tell you what the document, it gives you the documentation for this module, right? You can see there are a few words here. The secret key thing you've already seen already. Okay. And the num responses is how many responses you want GPT to give you. So I would recommend that you just use 1 response because that might max out your credits on the system, or you might be on a slow burn or something like that, right? And you should also be aware that OpenAI constantly produce new modules, right? Their GPT module is actually, the name of it is actually text-Da Vinci 003. This is the module, the model that they are using. Okay, you can change if you know that they have a different model and you want to upgrade that model. Just change the name using model exclamation mark. Okay, you can put that in your secret or something else if you want to, or put in your chatbot. It doesn't really matter. All right. So in this case here, like you want to change the number of responses, you can put 2 space num responses exclamation mark. They'll give you more responses from the chatbot, right? Which means the same question is being asked twice to GPT and it'll give you 2 responses. Okay. Max tokens doesn't really work very well. So I've not seen it being used working. I think it's only for very large responses. You can change that. Okay, so you can change the max tokens for very large responses. Okay, last of all, there is the word called ask. Okay, ask is where you really ask the GPT model, all right? And the prompt, it has one input called prompt, which is like, why is the sky blue, for example? That could be a prompt, okay? And you're going to shove that prompt. So what this ask does, it just takes your prompt, sends it to GPT, and gets the response back, okay? But the response is a sequence. Sorry, this is a mistake here. It's not a hash. I need to update the documentation. It's a sequence, okay? And you need then to actually get the right value. Which response do you want? Okay. If you want just the first response, just use head, because a sequence. You can just call the head of the sequence, then just print out. Okay. All right. So let's see this in action. So rather than reinvent the wheel, what I'll do is I will look at some of the examples that you can run. Okay, let me just stop the share here first. So I can enter my secret key into the system. Give me a second here. Okay. So I'm going to show you the example. So if you download it from if you go to my community page here, right, and you click on Arnold here, right, and if you go to my for me it's my projects, for you to be something else. You'll see the OpenAI GPT, right? Maybe there's already 14 of you who downloaded the software, but maybe if you download it, okay, you will appear under the folder Arnold/OpenAI GPT, right? Okay, so you can do that. If you did that, then you'll find a folder. If you go inside the OpenAI GPT folder, you'll see the examples folder and some other stuff. Okay, here the README here gives you the documentation if you run it. Okay, that's just the documentation. It's just convenient for you to run and just see, how it works. And the open-AI is the actual source code for the connector itself. Okay, it's not very long. Okay, and the install client is where it actually installs the cloud module. So I made a mistake here just now where I say it returns a hash. It should be a sequence. Okay, and if you run this, you will publish it under your username, right? So if you run this install client, your username is, let's say, Joe, then you've actually installed a cloud module called Joe/API/open-AI, right? And other people can use Joe as well, right? On the system, it's all freely shareable. Oops. My computer seems to have hung up. Sorry. Just give me a second here. I'm not sure what's going on. Okay, just give me a second. Sorry, guys, there seems to be some kind of loading issue on the server itself. Just give us a minute. But maybe while we're waiting, maybe you can have a Q&A. Any other questions that you guys might have? Okay, there are some questions here. What is limited allocations from Open AI? Well, the idea is that we don't know how long OpenAI is going to have the free tier, or maybe they might have, if it becomes very popular, they might restrict how many calls you can make to the API. Okay. So which file from the file to input the API secret key? Well, I just told you it will appear as a pop-up when you click on create a secret key. Then just copy that and just paste that. All right. If the database is common, are there any standard data sets of key value like cities, world? No, when I say it's common, I'm saying it's not common to the whole community. It's just common to you, one user. Okay, and there's no common databases for other stuff. Okay, is there any memory constraints I need to know for the DBase? Well, there's no memory constraints, but there are runtime constraints. So if your database is too large, for example, it'll just crash because it'll just stop from working. Okay. I'm not sure why this thing is not responding. I think we've got some kind of crash, I think, at the servers. This rarely, very, very rarely happens. But it looks like it might have happened today, unfortunately. Okay, so I don't think I can actually do the example for you. But what I would say is that because the ID now somehow locked, we have a look at it, and I can't seem to access the system myself. These things happen sometimes. Well, it looks like we have got a technical glitch, a technical fault with the IDE server. So I don't think I can complete the talk. I'll give you examples. We have to look into it. But what I'll do is I will record the rest of this talk. Okay. And if you want, you can actually download the examples. Okay. Right now, I think the system is offline. It seems to be offline. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who can't access it. Yeah, but it looks like it is definitely locked up. Okay. So I'm afraid I have to stop the talk right now. Okay. But we will come back to you guys and I'll give you also a recorded version of this last part, okay, where we will talk about how you can use the examples. So there are actually 6 examples there that I've actually made for you guys. The first one is a very simple way to use the connector. Okay, but there are other things that you can do with it, right? So you can actually create a sentiment analysis using GPT. You can create things like what is it called again? A means to create things like creative stuff, like poems, for example. Or I have 6 examples in the examples folder. The last one is more extensive. It's more like a psychotherapist, right, trying to advise a client, right, and see whether they're sad and happy and that kind of stuff. Okay, but unfortunately, this looks like we have got a system downtime right now, right, and we have to fix that before we can actually proceed. Okay, so I will stop here. Chris, are there any more questions? Chris, are you there? Okay, there's no questions, then we'll stop here. Okay, and we'll see you guys maybe sometime this week as well, where we'll upload the rest of this talk. Okay, thank you for your time and have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.